didn't see you come in. Today I've got for you a demo on how you're going to document your work for me. This is very important. This is probably going to be the most crucial part to doing an online sculpture course, is I need to be able to see how your sculpture looks, and the most clear way to do that is to set up better documentation than simply just plopping it on your couch and taking a picture with your phone. I'm going to show you how to document with your phone, because that's all I'm expecting anybody here to have. I'm shooting this video right now on a much bigger camera, but the idea for you is that I'm just expecting the imagery to come from your phone, maybe a few tweaks that you can do with your internal editing. For the most part, everything you can do is just with your phone. So, a couple of things I asked you to get for this course. You don't need to, you can kind of use what you've got. So I've got a few examples and we're going to use those examples. But one of the things I recommend getting was foam core. All right, so this is something you can get at Walmart. I got mine at Walmart. It was Elmer's something brand. Basically, it's just these white sheets, and they're more or less going to be big enough to be the size of whatever your project might be. Here is my example for project 2, and you can see how the size of the board is much bigger than the actual project. So I'm going to make sure I've got a nice white background to be able to shoot my project on, so I can get the clear pictures to me, so I can mark them. Another thing that you might use, I looked around. I don't actually own a white bed sheet. I told you to get a white bed sheet if you could. But if you just have a light colored bed sheet, I have this light blue. That's going to work just as well. I'll show you the 2 examples today of how to use both, and I'll show them in an area that is more conducive to you. I've got this nice clear white space that I've set up, and I've got pictures of my dog, and that's about all I got in my area. Now, I don't think everybody's going to have that opportunity in their space. So I'm going to show you how to do these documentations in places like your kitchen or on your couch. That way you can kind of take those techniques and apply them to your own work, and I can get the best images possible, so I can get you the best mark possible. All right, let's get started. So here we've got a pretty typical setup. This is probably what most of us are in right now. I'm in an apartment, so I've got kind of regular kitchen table, nothing really fancy. It's kind of what I'm expecting everybody to have. So I'm going to show you a couple different ways that we might take our photos with our phone to get a better photo in our kitchen. One of the ways we might do this is just literally setting up our white backdrop. So here I've got my giant boot. I've got my shoe now in front. I've got a clean white background. I can take my phone, and now if I have my 2 or 3 pieces, depending on the size of my project, I can set up a nice little corner like so. Simple, easy. And now when I take my picture of my shoe, I can zoom right in, I can get right in, I can try to crop out. Now I'll show these a little bit closer, but you can see how much better that looks in that space than, say, just leaving it in the white kitchen background. When you're taking your photos, I'm going to ask you for 2 to 3 views, right? So you might have to change your setup. Say if it's something for your second project here, I'm going to ask you to have that opposite side so I can get all the different angles. I might ask you for an up view, right? This white space is still going to work perfect for the up view. And then, you might turn your object, try to give it a few different sides, just so I have a good idea of all the effort that you've put into the project. No matter what, I end up with these nice clean spaces, so I can really feature my work, right? That's the goal of this. That's the goal of the documentation. Try to get a nice clean space, so I'm just paying attention to your work. Another way that we might do this, if you don't have the foam core, maybe you decided not to go that direction, is we might use a bed sheet. So with our bed sheet, we're just doing the same thing. We're just trying to get a nice clean space that I can show off my project with, so I can kind of get rid of the background, right? So here I've got my bed sheet. I've got a couple of thumbtacks. You don't have to use thumbtacks, but I'm going to use thumbtacks. I will worry about the damage deposit later. But again, I'm just setting up a backdrop, so I've got something clean and easy to look at for when I take a picture of my project. Now, you can sort of set up your area. Now I've got a nice clean area. I've got my boot. And then I've got my phone. And again, now I'm able to take my shot of my object on a nice clean area. You might try to, get rid of some of your wrinkles, more details and stuff to pay for that. The better, something to consider is if maybe one of these projects, maybe you're applying to go to a different school, you're applying to enter into a different program, taking your better documentation now is going to save you from having to scramble to try to take documentation of something that you really like later. So we've got our project. One of the tips that you might do, I'm working right now, I've got my lights on above that I can have. I'm not expecting everybody to have extra lights. If you've got like little lamps and stuff, the more lighting you can have, the better. The other thing you can do is right now I've got my windows open. So something I might do to try to get some extra light on my project is I can actually bounce the light onto my project using my foam core or another piece of cardboard or something. And that'll end up giving me a much better image in the end with that extra light. Okay, those are two simple techniques just using the kitchen, and I'll show you now how to maybe move to your couch. Basically going to be the same, and then I'll take you outside and we'll set up an outside area and try to use the daylight that we've got. So here I've got my couch set up, kind of typical to what everybody's got. Here I'm not having to use the thumbtacks. I'm going to just use the bed sheet. Of course, if I wanted to use the foam core, I could do the foam core again, just lean it up against the back of the couch, set my little foreground setup. Here with my couch setup, I'm able to get in, do the same thing. I've got a nice clear background. My angle can change. I can have sort of an upright angle, but when you see these final photos, you're going to end up with a nice clear space for your project so that I have a clear understanding of what you're trying to get me to see. Now I've got a little bit more dramatic lighting right now set up. I have a lamp that's on over here, and that might be something you play with my overhead light on my kitchen was a bit different. Here I've got some directional light, and with sculpture we can really play with that directional light because it creates different shadows. So you'll see in these photos how I have a few different shadows kind of in the laces, and that might be something interesting to play with, and that's what I mean by having extra lamps. Okay, let's try outside now. So our final example here is going to be outside. You can see that all I've done is actually put my little thing together into a little solid corner. I just used some tape, that's what the masking tape's for, just so I can get my piece to stand up, and I just got them out on the lawn here by my apartment. The nice thing about outside, although I'm dealing with a little bit of rain right now, is the light we get. We get very even cast lights. That's a great way to be able to photograph your sculpture. We're inside, we're dealing with the difficulty of maybe the light being really low, maybe coming from different directions, and you're dealing with different shadows. But having it outside, especially on a nice overcast day, the light's going to be really even, and it's going to give you a really good image for your project, minus the bugs. So let's take a couple of quick shots here, and then we'll head back inside, and I'll show you how to quickly edit these up to get you the best images possible. All of your phones, if you've got a phone, and if not, you got your computer, you probably have some sort of editing program. Windows kind of comes with one. You can use Photoshop, or if you've got something on your phone, you can use the ones directly on your phone. That's all I recommend you're using. So once we've got our photo here, we've got one of our shots that we've done on the drop cloth. We can go into and use our edit button. The edit button is going to allow me to crop in my image, so you can sort of see I have this a little bit of a fold there that kind of looks sort of ugly. Maybe I'll get rid of the fold here, make sure I've got the bottom, and that's going to give me a better image. If I can crop in and crop out anything that wasn't what I wanted, that's better. And then I can go into my other features. Some of these ones on the iPhone, I can sort of bend it forward, bend it backward, if the camera flattened it out weirdly. But the other big button you want to go to is your different features of things like exposure. So if my photo is a little bit dark, I can fix that, bring it lighter or darker. If my It's not as bright as I want it to be. I can kind of change that. I can go through all my features and sort of adjust my my image until I get something that I feel best represents what I want, right? I can get rid of some of those shadows there by doing that. I can play with the brightness. I can play with my black point. All these little features are going to give me kind of exactly what I want out of the photo, right? So that's why you want to go through there, spend a little time, make sure you edit up your photos so you can get me the best photo possible. Once I'm done, I can go done, and it's going to save my photo like that. I've got my, good enough, perfect image for me. This kind of gives me a good example of what I want to look at. It gives me a good example of what I can be able to grade for you. And then you want to make sure when you're sending me the photos that you're sending me 3 or 4 different views. So here we've got some on our foam core. This is giving me the bottom of the shoe. I need to be able to see that. I can't see that in one of these photos, right? And then we've got a top view, side view, and we've got the other side view. So you want to send 3 or 4 photos. That way they're making sure I can see all the sides. Imagine I'm in the room and I'm able to walk around that sculpture. So that's how many photos you want to send. Once I've got my photos all edited, I've got everything balanced, I've got everything looking as good as possible, then I can do something like send it. I can attach it to an email. Here's the big part that I want you to pay attention to. When I actually send this photo, I'm going to send this to myself. I want to make sure that when I push send, so here I'm sending, it's going to ask me the size of my photo. I want to make sure that I'm picking like this medium to small. That's all I really need to see. For the most part, if I need something bigger, I can ask you again to send it again. But if you send me one of the large, the actual size photos, they end up really big. They end up blowing up on the screen, and they're not necessary for me to actually be able to view the work. You only need to actually send me these smaller medium files, especially since we're dealing with just digital work. So when you're sending the photos, when you're attaching them, they're going to ask you if you want to send them large, medium, small. You want to pick something in that medium, small. That's all I really need to look at. And if I need something larger, I'll get back to you and I'll ask you for it to send a larger file. Hopefully that all makes sense. And you can use this to make your projects look as good as possible. And that you know what you need to do for your documentation.